Chapter 1 Such Affection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu, you pulled a total of 42 carts of soil today. Each cart costs 3 yuan. Here is 126. Count them. A middle-aged man looked at a man who was about 1.75 meters tall, and his face turned a little yellow. A young man with a figure like a bamboo pole, his eyes full of pity. Zhao Xinyu wiped his hands on the dirty work a few times, then took the stack of money with both hands. Looking at the money in his hand, the tired Zhao Xinyu smiled more. Thank you, Uncle Li, I will come over early tomorrow. The middle-aged man nodded. Zhao Xinyu, your bones are too thin. It stands to reason that you can make a lot of money in a month. I heard from others that you still deliver food at night and express delivery on holidays. You. Zhao Xinyu's face showed a trace of bitterness for a moment. Uncle Li, in order to support my education, Grandpa got sick from overwork and still owes a lot of foreign debt. I have grown up now and I can't let Grandpa anymore. Keep working hard. Then you can't work so hard. If you collapse from exhaustion, what will your grandfather do? I'm still young and I'll be fine. Uncle Li, I'm leaving first. While speaking, Zhao Xinyu had already left quickly. At the temporary water discharge place at the construction site, Zhao Xinyu pulled the water pipe to a corner, took off his clothes and took a cold shower, then took out a pair of washed, white but clean jeans from an old backpack and put them on, and then he quickly went to the work shed and handed over the motorcycle he bought for 500 yuan to deliver food. Just as he put on his helmet, he took out a mobile phone that was available on the market and turned it on. After turning it on, he was about to open the takeout delivery platform when a number was displayed on the phone. Little brother, when he saw the caller ID on his cell phone, the smile that had just accumulated on Zhao Xinyu's face disappeared instantly. He smiled bitterly and answered the phone. Zhao Xinyu, what's the matter with you? Where's my living expenses for this month? Are you going to starve me to death? Zhao Xinyu's eyes narrowed slightly. Xiaoxing, I did promise to give you living expenses every month. I just called you $1,005 last week, and you have already used up this month's living expenses. I don't care. If you don't give it to me, I'll ask Grandpa for it. He can even support you, the adopted one, in college, but he can't ignore me, the biological one. Zhao Xinyu's expression froze when he heard this. Xiaoxing, don't look for Grandpa, I will find a way for you. Tomorrow at the latest. After hanging up the phone, Zhao Xinyu's face was full of helplessness. He knew in his heart that he and Zhao Xinqing were both orphans adopted by his grandfather. However, in order to take care of Zhao Xinqing's feelings, he always said that he was adopted, and Zhao Xinqing relied on this, has been using this to blackmail him. In order to prevent his grandfather from suffering, Zhao Xinyu could only work hard to satisfy Zhao Xinqing. Sighing, he opened the takeout platform, and the next moment there was an order. Thinking about the living expenses he had to pay Zhao Xinqing tomorrow, Zhao Xinyu took the order without even looking at it. After receiving the order, Zhao Xinyu took a closer look and couldn't help but shake his head. The order was located at least 20 miles away from where he was now. This order would definitely be delayed, and if the other party gave a negative review, he wouldn't be able to make back the money in 2 days. Zhao Xinyu took out his mobile phone and dialed the other party's number directly. To Zhao Xinyu's surprise, the other party readily promised not to give him a bad review, but made a request, that is, to help him go to a place to deliver a package. Soon he got the takeout first. Zhao Xinyu got a very ordinary rucksack from the location mentioned on the phone. He rode away without asking. Lao Qi, the other party has already passed by with the goods. Please pay attention to receiving the goods. At a fork in the road, there was a commercial vehicle without a license plate. A man put away his mobile phone and whispered, the goods have left. You are ready to receive the goods and do it cleanly. After getting out of the car, the man watched the commercial vehicle leave and let out a long sigh. He is another pathetic ghost. Just think of me as a useless waste that cleans up the world. Although Zhao Xinyu said that the other party would not give him a bad review, he was still anxious. When the car passed through a dark section of road, a light suddenly flashed. Zhao Xinyu lowered his head subconsciously, and then he felt a bang on his back. It was like being hit by a heavy hammer, and he lost consciousness with a bang in his head. When his body fell to the ground, the blood had soaked into the backpack hanging on his chest, and with the flicker of a faint-colored light, the originally bulging backpack seemed to deflate a lot. The next moment, the lights of a commercial vehicle turned on, and not far away, two people wearing masks and hats holding bright flashlights also came towards this direction. When they arrived at Zhao Xinyu, who was covered in blood, they didn't care about Zhao Xinyu's life or death. They turned Zhao Xinyu's body over and reached for the backpack hanging on Zhao Xinyu's body. "Don't move." The next moment, several lights flashed, and JCs in uniforms appeared one by one. "Hurry up, there's an ambush." "Lao Chi, something happened," Hua Go and the others were arrested. And just that night, the Pengcheng police issued a notice. They successfully solved a major case. The criminals ordered takeout, and the takeaway boy never checked the backpack to help them transport cultural relics. In order not to be secretly arrested, it was discovered that due to accidents on the road and taking away cultural relics, 12 delivery boys had died in just the past month. Fortunately, although the delivery boy was seriously injured this time, he did not die. In the intensive care unit of Pengcheng First People's Hospital, a person who was wrapped like a rice dumpling was lying there, with only his nose and eyes exposed. Outside the ward, a young man was negotiating with two middle-aged men. "What happened to Zhao Xinyu? How did he become like this?" A middle-aged man frowned and said, "Who are you, Zhao Xinyu?" "I am Pang Mingyuan, his college classmate. His family situation is not very good. He runs takeout every night to earn living expenses. He did not go back that night. I just heard from my classmates what happened to him. He had an accident. Can I go in and see him? He is unconscious now. The doctor said that the chance of him waking up is almost zero. There is no use for you to go in." Upon hearing this, the young man's face changed drastically. He climbed to the door again and looked at Zhao Xinyu, who was like a rice dumpling on the hospital bed through the window on the door, with a trace of tears in his eyes. Just a week later, Pang Mingyuan received news that Zhao Xinyu, who had been sentenced to death by the doctor, suddenly woke up. As his best friend, Pang Mingyuan, of course, arrived at the hospital as soon as he received the news. When they arrived at the hospital, Pang Mingyuan saw a young man who was about 1.78 meters tall and dressed in flashy clothes. "What do you mean? Zhao Xinyu is my brother, of course I will get his compensation." As soon as Pang Mingyuan heard this, there was a hint of anger in his eyes. He walked over and looked at the claims adjuster specially sent by the takeaway company. "What happened?" At this moment, a weak voice came from the ward. "Mingyuan, please call manager Zhao in. I have something to say to him." In the ward, Zhao Xinyu looked like a rice dumpling, but the bandages on his face had been removed, and the crisscrossing scars made Pang Mingyuan change his face. "Zhao Xinyu, why don't you let me go to school? You said you would give me money but you didn't, yet you lie here pretending to be dead." Pang Mingyuan's expression changed, and he stretched out his hand to grab Zhao Xinyu. "You are still not Xinyu's brother. Your brother has become like this, and you are still fucking talking. Come on, come out. Mingyuan, let him go." After saying this, Zhao Xinyu looked at manager Zhao, who followed him in. "Manager Zhao, how much is the compensation?" "The compensation is 36,000 yuan. The company also heard about your situation and allocated another 20,000 yuan for humanitarian purposes." "Mingyuan, how much are my medical expenses during this period?" "You are the victim and the police bear all of your medical expenses." "Manager Zhao, give Zhao Xinyu 50,000 yuan. Zhao Xinqing's eyes lit up over there. "Hurry up, what are you waiting for?" At this time, he didn't even look at Zhao Xinyu. "Zhao Xinqing, this is all the tuition for your future schooling. I can't help you now. If you dare to harm Grandpa, you have to consider the consequences yourself." When he said this, the weak Zhao Xinyu's eyes, the explosion shot out a beam of light, and Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but take a few steps back. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 2: An Unexpected Surprise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. When Zhao Xinyu got 50,000 yuan, he didn't even look at Zhao Xinyu and left happily. Not only Pang Mingyuan, but also manager Zhao, who was responsible for the compensation, couldn't stand it. Xinyu, what kind of brother are you? He is a scumbag. Why would you give such a brother 50,000? Mingyuan, take the remaining 6,000 and pay back the money I paid for sending the school. We'll talk about the rest after I get better. Pang Mingyuan wanted to say something else. At this time, the nurse came in to check the ward. They could not stay and left the ward. At night, after the last nurse made rounds, Zhao Xinyu stared at the ceiling motionless under the dim light. After a long time, Zhao Xinyu took a deep breath, grinned, and struggled to sit up. When he sat up, he was already sweating profusely, and his face was covered with sweat. Looking at the empty room, Zhao Xinyu sighed, gritted his teeth and began to remove the bandages on his body. When all the bandages on his body were removed, he had turned into a bloody man again. Grandpa, my grandson is unfilial. Now I am neither human nor ghost, and one of my legs is lame. I don't want to be a burden to you. In my next life, I will work as a cow or a horse to repay you. Just as Zhao Xinyu was struggling to get out of bed, he suddenly felt a heat in his chest. He subconsciously looked at the place where the heat was, and then froze there. Under the guidance of his grandfather since childhood, he did not have any bad habits. Apart from drinking a little wine, he did not even smoke cigarettes when going out to party with friends. When he drank, he only drank medicinal wine brewed by his grandfather. I never get together with my classmates. But now there is a cyan mark on his chest. This mark is like an incomplete jade pendant. Part of the mark on his body is a piece of cloud that has just opened, and a round of cyan stars can be vaguely seen in the cloud. With a trace of doubt, Zhao Xinyu pressed his trembling hand on the mark, wondering when the mark appeared and why he didn't know it. Looking at the newly opened clouds and the faintly visible stars, Zhao Xinyu sighed in his heart. What if he could hide inside? The next moment, he felt dizzy. When he reacted, he found that he was no longer on the hospital bed. He appeared in a gray space with an area of about 300 to 400 square meters. Although the space is not large, the air is very fresh. Just taking a breath makes me feel an indescribable feeling of comfort, and the pain in my body seems to have been relieved a lot. Looking up at the sky, Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. He saw that the clouds floating above were very similar to the clouds on his chest, and a blue star could be vaguely seen between the clouds. Looking at the clouds and mists floating in the sky, Zhao Xinyu was a little dazed. What kind of bloody thing was this? The plots in movies and TV series all appeared on his body. How could he enter the mark on his chest? Struggling to get up, Zhao Xinyu felt a slip in his hands and a wet feeling under his legs. He looked down and saw that he was lying in a piece of blue soil. He reached out and grabbed a handful. The soil seemed to be slippery. It's like grease and slips right through your fingers without being crowded. Living in the countryside, he has been growing vegetables and land with his grandfather since he was a child. Although he is not old, he knows what this kind of soil means to farmers. This is the most fertile soil in the eyes of farmers. Feeling the moist soil, Zhao Xinyu raised his eyes and looked into the distance, but lying on the ground he could only see the foggy surroundings, and he couldn't see clearly what was in this space. Zhao Xinyu shook his head. He picked up his hand and wanted to wipe off the soil on it. When he picked up his hand, he was stunned again. He saw that there was only a layer of light cyan marks on his hand that was covered with cyan soil just now. The hands that were originally uncomfortable seemed to feel much better, and the bending and stretching were much better than before. Feeling the benefits of the blue soil, Zhao Xinyu looked at his scarred body, and the trace of despair in his heart slowly disappeared. The reason why he chose to study traditional Chinese medicine was not because it was cheap, but mainly because he had studied traditional Chinese medicine with his adopted grandfather when he was a child, and his grandfather's ambition was to make the declining traditional Chinese medicine glorious again. Although he was basically a useless person at this moment, when he felt the effect of the green soil, he suddenly felt a glimmer of hope in his heart, but the next moment, he thought that he had entered the mark on his chest without knowing what happened, and how to get out now. Just when the idea flashed in his mind fell into a trance again. When he came to his senses, he was back on the hospital bed again. If it weren't for the blue dirt marks on his body, he would have felt that he was still dreaming. Looking at the cyan marks on his body, Zhao Xinyu's tears suddenly flowed down. When the tears were gone, all the despair in his eyes disappeared. After spending a few minutes to tie the bandage again, he lay back on the hospital bed and soon fell asleep. From this day on, Zhao Xinyu would enter that space every night late at night and wipe the scars on his body with blue mud. In less than a month, Zhao Xinyu, who was judged by experts to need at least half a year to be discharged from the hospital, recovered and was discharged. However, compared with before, his delicate face was covered with black scars, and the left side of his face was even black because of the penetration of sand. Zhao Xinyu limped behind Pang Mingyuan, who came to pick him up. When he walked out of the hospital, Zhao Xinyu suddenly stopped. "Mingyuan, now we have graduated. How can I go back to school like this? Help me take out my things." Pang Mingyuan was slightly startled. "Xinyu, what are you going to do? If nothing happened, several hospitals would have looked for you." "You." Zhao Xinyu let out a long sigh. "I am neither human nor ghost, so I can scare people. If you want to save people, who dares to ask me to diagnose the pulse? Then you plan to go back to your hometown to accompany the old man." Zhao Xinyu shook his head. "Grandpa is old and ill. How can he accept me going back like this? What are you planning to do?" "Delivery." From this day on, many people in Pengcheng could often see a limping figure. No matter it was windy or rainy, people could see him, and even if you don't see him wearing the clothes specially made for delivering food, he will still be lame and pick up rags on the streets and alleys. Pengcheng's economy is developing rapidly, and the suburbs are full of high-rise buildings. However, there is a village called Xihanling in the northern suburbs of Pengcheng. Although Xihanling is close to Pengcheng, the most prosperous economy, unlike other villages around Pengcheng, Xihanling has a small population but covers an area of at least 30,000 acres. The reason why the entire Shihan Ridge has not yet been developed is mainly because there are ravines everywhere in the Shihan Ridge, and there is a large Kaoyang mountain range that stretches across the village. The most terrible thing is that Shihan Ridge is still short of water. It is precisely because of the crisscrossed ravines and lack of water resources in Xihanling that many developers have been deterred. Therefore, while other areas are undergoing large-scale development, Xihanling still lags behind. There is a scrap collection station on a relatively flat area of more than 10 acres at the junction of Xihanling and Pengcheng. Every afternoon, a man with one leg will stumble into this scrap collection station carrying several bags of scraps. "Grandpa Su, I'm back." That afternoon, a figure wearing a mask and a hat and lame on one leg entered the collection station carrying 2 large bags of waste. Throwing the 2 bags of scraps in an open space, the cripple staggered towards a row of dilapidated houses in the north of the scrap collection station. Before getting to a room, a faint cough came. The lame man shrank his eyes, said nothing, and pushed the door open. The room was very messy, empty wine bottles were everywhere on the floor, and the whole room was filled with a strong smell of alcohol. An old man with gray hair was lying on the bed, and there was some vomit on the floor. "Grandpa Han, you have drunk too much again." The owner of the voice took off his mask and hat, revealing a face full of scars and half of it black. Reaching the bedside, Zhao Xinyu reached out and put his hand on the old man's wrist. The next moment, his expression changed. He could feel that the old man's pulse was disordered and his life was in danger. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 3, Heaven-defying Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu's expression changed. He had studied traditional Chinese medicine with his grandfather for more than 10 years, and he would hardly consider common illnesses. However, after that incident, his hand was greatly affected due to the injury. If it were not for the effect of the cyan soil in the space, he might still be lying in the hospital now. He would not dare to treat the old man at all. What's more, he didn't have any equipment in his hands. The old man had problems with drinking and was already on the verge of death. He didn't dare. Taking out the cheap mobile phone, Zhao Xinyu immediately dialed 120. Unfortunately, despite the doctor's efforts, the old man still passed away because of too long a delay. The old man was a lonely old man. Although he had help from the village, he still spent all the 3,000 yuan that Zhao Xinyu had saved during this period. After taking care of the old man's affairs, Zhao Xinyu looked helpless. He had been boarding here since he left campus. Now that the old man passed away, he really didn't know where to go next. Just when Zhao Xinyu was packing his things and about to leave, the old village chief Han Tianliang, who was helping take care of the old man's funeral, opened the door and walked in. "Xinyu, what are you?" Zhao Xinyu smiled bitterly and glanced at the gray-haired Han Tianliang. "Grandpa Han, Grandpa Su has left. Grandpa Su should have relatives. If I don't leave now, how can I wait for others to come and drive me away?" Han Tianliang smiled bitterly and shook his head. "What kind of relatives does Lao Su have? If he has relatives, I don't want you to spend money to deal with the funeral. This is the will that Lao Su left a few days ago. This yard will belong to you from now on." Lao Su had a wish before his death. "If you have a descendant in the future, I hope you can take your child to the grave and burn a few more pieces of paper for him." After leaving the will, Han Tianliang shook his head and left. Looking at the will, Zhao Xinyu felt the warmth of the world for the first time after leaving the village. As early as after coming to Pengcheng, in order to earn his own living expenses and pay for his younger brother Zhao Xinqing's tuition, he had been picking up scraps in addition to delivering food for the past 5 years. Grandpa Su saw him as pitiful, and would often stay here if it was too late. The scraps he picked up over the years were sold here. Because Grandpa Su had difficulty moving, he often stayed to help, and over time the two of them developed a certain relationship. Before the old man passed away, he had made a will and left this yard of more than 10 acres to himself, which made Zhao Xinyu really feel the warmth. In the midst of emotion, Zhao Xinyu felt a sense of soreness in his injured left leg. He raised his eyes and looked out the window and saw that the outside had become foggy. "It's raining again." Zhao Xinyu sighed, did some math and shook his head. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. It will be another Chinese New Year in half a month. Looking at the empty room, Zhao Xinyu's heart moved. He thought of the cyan space. Ever since he owned that space, he had been using the cyan soil in the space to heal his wounds. He really hadn't thought about anything else. The Chinese New Year is about to come now. Thinking that he only has a few hundred yuan left on hand and can't even live through the new year, he then thinks of that space. Thinking of doing it, Zhao Xinyu left this waste collection station in the rain, which didn't even have a gate. Not far from the scrap collection station, there is a store that specializes in selling seeds and expenses. Because the Chinese New Year is coming soon, there are not many customers at the end of the day. A middle-aged woman is sitting behind the counter and dozing. As the door rang, the middle-aged woman looked up at the door, and a lame man wearing a mask walked in. There was a trace of doubt in the middle-aged woman's eyes for a moment. The store is not far from the scrap collection station. Zhao Xinyu has been in and out of the scrap collection station for several years, so although the middle-aged woman does not know Zhao Xinyu's name, she knows that he lives in the scrap collection station. A lame man who picked up scraps and delivered takeaways was now here. She couldn't figure out the purpose of his visit. "Are there any tomatoes, cucumbers, seeds?" Zhao Xinyu said a series of 7 or 8 kinds of vegetable seeds. "Yes, but they are all old seeds and the germination rate is not guaranteed. Get me a bag of each." After leaving the store, Zhao Xinyu took a deep breath, then went to a local product store and bought a shovel and 2 small buckets. When he was about to walk back to the scrap collection station with lame legs, a whimper made him stop involuntarily. After looking around for a few times, he saw a small squirming thing under a trash can. It was a little black dog that had not been born long. Being soaked in the cold rain, the little black dog was already dying. looking at the darkened sky. Zhao Xinyu sighed, reached out and picked up the little black dog and put it into the bucket. Back in the simple room, Zhao Xinyu closed the curtains, locked the door, left the keg outside, and entered the space with a shovel. He wanted to test a suspicion that had been brewing for months. When he was young, he often planted vegetables in the yard with his grandfather, so Zhao Xinyu was no stranger to planting. He divided the space of more than 300 square meters evenly and planted the 7 types of vegetables he purchased. Looking at the few square meters of space in the middle, Zhao Xinyu picked up the shovel. The next moment he was slightly stunned. He felt that the shovel touched something hard. Putting down the shovel, he squatted down and dug with his hands. After just a few clicks, he saw a huge blue rock. Zhao Xinyu shook his head. He didn't expect there to be rocks in such a space, but then his eyes showed surprise. He saw water droplets condensing and sliding down on the blue rocks, and there were water stains in the pits around the rocks. Thinking about the efficacy of the cyan mud in space, Zhao Xinyu simply took off his clothes and applied the cyan mud that almost turned into mud on his injured area, while waiting for the soil to fall off. Zhao Xinyu's stomach made an unsatisfactory sound, and he left the space with a slight sigh. Because of the rain, the simple room without any heating equipment was a bit cold. Shipley cooked a small pot of porridge, heated some steamed buns, and stuffed some pickles. While he was nibbling steamed buns and eating pickles, the whimpering sound of the little black dog came from the keg. Zhao Xinyu put down the steamed buns in his hands and made some rice soup. When the rice soup became cold, he fed some to the little black dog. He didn't know if the little black dog could survive until tomorrow. After dinner, Zhao Xinyu got into the damp bed, maybe growing vegetables in the space, and Zhao Xinyu soon fell asleep. I don't know how long it took, but the coldness made Zhao Xinyu wake up. He took a cheap mobile phone and took a look. Zhao Xinyu turned on the light and saw the trembling little puppy on the ground. He was still alive. Zhao Xinyu got out of bed, held the little guy in his arms, and lay down again. However, the damp quilt and the cold simple room made it difficult for Zhao Xinyu to fall asleep. In the end, Zhao Xinyu simply entered the space with the little puppy in his arms. When he entered the space, Zhao Xinyu was stunned. He saw that the area of the space was no longer 300 or 400 square meters, but had become about an acre. The cyan rock that was originally buried under the soil was also exposed, and the pit he dug was now filled with people. Clear water. What surprised him most was that there were touches of green in the green soil, and the vegetables planted yesterday had already appeared. This. Zhao Xinyu looked at the dots of green and was completely stunned. What kind of space was this? How could the vegetables grown yesterday sprout and grow within a few hours? When he was surprised, the little puppy in his arms suddenly struggled. Zhao Xinyu put him on the ground. The puppy staggered to the small puddle, put its little head into the small puddle and drank the water inside. The small puddle was only more than 10 centimeters deep. Zhao Xinyu was not worried that something might happen to the little puppy, so he just turned around in the space a few times. Every time he went to an area, he was more surprised in his eyes. Logically speaking, after planting and storing for a long time, the germination rate would decrease, but he saw that all the vegetables planted yesterday had sprouted, and there was no shortage of seedlings. Phenomenon. Returning to the small puddle again, Shipley saw the little puppy lying down and sleeping soundly. He turned to look at the dots of green in the space. Some plots from movies and TV series flashed in his mind. Suddenly excited, at the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 4: A Turning Point in Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu is not a farmer, but he grew up in a rural area and has been growing vegetables with his grandfather since he can remember. He knows that no matter what kind of soil is used to grow vegetables, it is impossible for dry seeds to germinate and grow within a few hours, but now something like this has happened in this inexplicable space. If you follow the seed germination process, the vegetables you plant will be harvested in half a month at most. Generally, when festivals come, the price of any vegetables and fruits will increase. If the vegetables in the space can be sold, you don't need to get up early and stay up late to deliver takeaways and pick up waste. Thinking of this, Zhao Xinyu's eyes were filled with tears. He had not contacted his grandfather since the accident. If he could really make money, at least his grandfather would not have to suffer. During this day, Zhao Xinyu was in a state of excitement. In his excitement, he even spent 23 yuan to buy a roast chicken. That night, he entered the space again. The green in the space was no longer just dots, but connected into one piece. Excited, Shipley brought the small bucket in, dug a small canal in the area where tomatoes were grown, and scooped out the water from the small puddle for irrigation. What excites him is that no matter how much water is scooped out, the water in the puddle will never decrease. As he scoops out water, the area and depth of the small puddle gradually become larger. By the time Zhao Xinyu felt tired, the area of the small puddle was almost 30 or 40 square meters, and the water depth was more than 20 centimeters. However, he continues to expand the area of the puddle, and the water in the puddle will no longer flow outside, even if the outside area is lower than the water level of the puddle. During the break, Zhao Xinyu took a sip of water from the puddle. The water was slightly cool and had a hint of sweetness. After drinking it, he felt even more refreshed, and the fatigue on his body seemed to be relieved a lot. Baby, this is really a treasure. At this moment, Shipley was sure that the space he had obtained inexplicably should be a heaven-defying treasure. Just when Zhao Xinyu was excited, he felt a furry little guy rub against his leg a few times. Looking down, he saw the little puppy who was still dying yesterday, but now the little puppy no longer looked like it was dying, and had completely turned into a lively little guy. Zhao Xinyu's heart trembled again, and he reached out to hug the little puppy and touched his belly a few times. The little guy whimpered at him. The little one is hungry. I took the little guy back to the simple room, chopped up the leftover roast chicken, and made some rice soup. The little puppy ran over and started eating. After eating, the little guy turned around on the floor. A few laps, but not going to sleep. Thinking that the little puppy would fall asleep after drinking water in the space, Zhao Xinyu simply sent the little puppy into the space. In the next few days, the vegetables in the space looked different every day. Tomatoes, cucumbers, and eggplants were almost half a foot tall. The area of the space seemed to have increased, and the originally gray space seemed to become a little brighter. Seeing the changes in the vegetables in the space day by day, Zhao Xinyu was not idle. He went to the local product store and bought bamboo poles for building shelves. I bought some parts and saved a tricycle that I had acquired that was almost falling apart. At this time, there was not much left in his hands. Others were busy buying ingredients and meat for the new year, but he could only buy some noodles and pickles. The spring festival is approaching, and every day of noodles and pickles makes Zhao Xinyu's body even thinner, and his face full of scars shows a hint of sallowness. Anyone who studies traditional Chinese medicine knows that this is severe malnutrition. That night, Zhao Xinyu entered the space again. Although it was only for one day, the space still changed a lot. The tomatoes, which are about 1.56 meters tall, have already borne fruit 2 days ago. Some are already ripe, and the fruits are bright red and round, just like small lanterns hanging on the branches during the festival. I reached out and picked one, without wiping it off, and took a bite. It was juicy and delicious, full of sweetness, without a trace of sourness, and with a fragrance that I had never smelled before. Wiping his mouth, Zhao Xinyu was ecstatic. Such a delicious tomato would definitely fetch a good price if sold. Looking at other vegetables, the cucumber seedlings are more than 2 meters long and are covered with large and small fruits. The cucumber thorns are green and there is a light layer of water dust on them. Green peppers and eggplants are 1.5 meters tall. Each one looks like a landscape tree, covered with fruits. Each green pepper is the size of a bowl and is crystal clear. The eggplants are purple and plump, and any one of them is more than half a foot long. The purple ones are shiny, and the half-meter-long beans are dazzling green. The rape seeds are all like emeralds, which makes people greedy to see them. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Zhao Xinyu picked a cucumber and took a sip. A fragrance filled the air, and he was slightly startled. He is not very wealthy, so he often buys some processed cucumbers for his meals. But the cucumbers he has now are different from the cucumbers he has eaten before. They are crisp and have a hint of sweetness. Although the sweetness is not strong, they are a little different. The taste of. After a few mouthfuls, he finished a cucumber, rubbed his hands, and then Zhao Xinyu picked some of each vegetable and left the space. There was no meat at home, so Zhao Xinyu simply used salad oil instead and cooked 4 dishes: fried eggplant, fried green pepper, fried beans, and cold cucumber. After it was done, Zhao Xinyu couldn't wait to pick up the chopsticks. He couldn't remember how long he hadn't eaten stir-fried vegetables, even if there was no shredded meat in it. After taking a bite of fried beans, Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but be startled. He used to live with his grandfather, and he did most of the cooking at home. He knew his own cooking skills, but now that there is no meat, the fried beans are more delicious than the fried beans with meat slices in the past, and it also contains a fragrance that has never been seen in fried beans in the past. With a hint of surprise, Zhao Xinyu tasted 3 other dishes that also had no meat slices. After tasting it, Zhao Xinyu was completely stunned. Every dish tastes better than what has been cooked before, and every dish has a fragrance that has never been smelled before. Zhao Xinyu dared to conclude that even his grandfather, who was recognized as the best cook in the 10 miles and 8 villages, would not be able to make such a taste. When Zhao Xinyu was shocked, several low dog barks came. Zhao Xinyu saw the little puppy Heifeng staring at him and barking, his eyes full of dissatisfaction. Zhao Xinyu laughed, found a small bowl, put some dishes for Heifeng, and placed it on the ground. In a few minutes, all 4 dishes were eaten, and there was only an empty bowl left in front of Heifeng. After rubbing his swollen belly, Zhao Xinyu lay down and stared at the roof, tears streaming down the corners of his eyes. He didn't know how long it had been since he had a full meal like today. Wiping away his tears, Zhao Xinyu sat up and his eyes became firm. He knew that this inexplicable space might be a turning point in his life. Zhao Xinyu couldn't sleep that night. In the early hours of the morning, he entered the space with the used boxes he purchased and picked some of the ripe tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, green peppers, beans, and rapeseed in the space. When the first light of dawn appeared in the east, Zhao Xinyu parked his tricycle at the door of an old residential area. At this moment, there were at least 30 or 40 stalls on both sides of the door. And Zhao Xinyu arrived the latest, so he could only place the tricycle in the farthest place from the door. The appearance of Zhao Xinyu immediately attracted the attention of nearby stalls. Everyone knows that colleagues are enemies, and these people are running for survival, and of course they do not want anyone to compete with them for business. After Zhao Xinyu took off the tarpaulin that had turned white after repairing it countless times, jealousy immediately appeared in the eyes of the nearby vegetable vendors. "Boy, where did you come from? Get away from me!" A middle-aged man with a fierce appearance walked up to his tricycle and said viciously. Zhao Xinyu's expression froze. He glanced at the stalls that also sold vegetables, and then looked at the vegetables in his car, with a hint of helplessness on his face. After years of being looked down upon, he also knew that in this age of materialism, not many people would sympathize with him as a useless person. He could only push the cart away with a wry smile. When he left, he even heard the screams of the stall owners. Jeers. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 5: The First Pot of Gold. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. When Zhao Xinyu struggled to push a tricycle full of vegetables past the stall in front of the community, all he heard was ridicule. No one had sympathy, and a few even laughed with gloating. Hearing the mocking laughter, Zhao Xinyu's heart was bleeding, and he didn't know whether it was sweat or tears flowing on his face. After coming to Pengcheng for a few years, what he felt most was the coldness of the world, and the real warmth. He has only experienced it in a few people. Zhao Xinyu only had 1 leg, and the goods in a cart weighed at least 700 to 800 kilograms. He originally planned to go to a smaller community not far away, but he was exhausted halfway through the push. After parking the car, Zhao Xinyu's lame leg was trembling. He shook his head left and right, and Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but smile a few times. At this moment, he was exactly in the middle of the 2 communities. There were crowds of people in front of the 2 residential areas, and there were countless people buying groceries. However, not only were there people buying groceries, but there were only a few people doing morning exercises here. Thinking about which community, there might be other stall owners driving him away, and since he no longer had the extra strength to push the cart, Zhao Xinyu simply took out the electronic scale he bought for 80 yuan and set up the stall on the spot. Time passed by, and many stall owners at the entrance of the two communities had already packed up and went home. When they passed Zhao Xinyu's stall and saw a cart full of vegetables, they all laughed. No. When the young man looked at Zhao Xinyu, there was even a feeling that he was seeing something in his eyes. Looking at his cheap mobile phone, Zhao Xinyu kept shaking his head. He was full of confidence yesterday, but now he no longer had any excitement. After waiting for nearly an hour, Zhao Xinyu sighed deeply when he saw that it was already past 10 o'clock. He didn't even have 5 yuan in his body, so he could only eat tomatoes and cucumbers to satisfy his hunger. After eating 3 tomatoes in a row, Zhao Xinyu felt much better. He sighed and put the electronic scale back on the tricycle. He planned to find a place to dispose of these vegetables. Just when Zhao Xinyu was about to leave with his cart, a sound of brakes sounded. Hey, do you want to sell this vegetable? Zhao Xinyu was shocked and turned to look in the direction where he was speaking. He saw a small pickup truck parked behind him, driven by a middle-aged man in his 40s. Sell, sell. Zhao Xinyu suppressed the excitement in his heart and said several words, sell, one after another. When the middle-aged man got off the car, Zhao Xinyu smelled the smell that only a chef could smell from his body, and he knew in his heart that he should be a chef. The middle-aged man circled the tricycle a few times and frowned. Your vegetables are so good, so you must have used chemical fertilizers and pesticides, right? No, no, it's definitely useless. These vegetables are all grown naturally. Try it. Zhao Xinyu said hurriedly. While speaking, he took out a tomato from the box. The middle-aged man's eyes flickered for a few times, and he glanced at Zhao Xinyu, whose face was covered with scars. He frowned and took the tomato, took a bottle of mineral water from the car, washed it several times, and then took a bite. After taking a bite, the middle-aged man hummed and looked up at Zhao Xinyu. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He had been a chef for nearly 20 years, and this was the first time he had eaten tomatoes with such a taste. It can't be genetically modified vegetables, right? The middle-aged man's eyes flickered a few times. How come? Zhao Xinyu, who was doing business for the first time, didn't know what to say. Let's see, it looks like it's going to be noon soon. Your food won't be fresh after noon. I don't know how bad it will be if it's eaten tomorrow. I see that you have trouble with your legs and feet. If it's cheaper, I'll buy it. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but feel excited. Sure, you name the price. Seeing Zhao Xinyu's appearance, the middle-aged man also saw that he was a novice. He turned his eyes a few times and said, the current market price of tomatoes is 4.2 yuan per pound. I will give you 3.5 yuan for cucumbers. When Zhao Xinyu heard the price, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. The prices mentioned by the middle-aged people were the prices a few days ago. At such a price now, you can't buy it at wholesale, however, because these were grown in his own space, and he also planned to deal with them cheaply. Zhao Xinyu didn't think much and nodded directly. Half an hour later, Shipley put the last box of cucumbers on the pickup truck, and then there was an extra 2,206 yuan in his mobile phone. The middle-aged man was afraid that Zhao Xinyu would regret it, so he drove away immediately after transferring the money. When Zhao Xinyu saw the middle-aged man leaving, he wanted to shout a few times. It took him at least half a month to earn more than 2,000 yuan by delivering food and picking up scraps. But now he got more than 2,000 yuan in half a day. How could this not make him excited? When he went back, Zhao Xinyu had a splurge and spent more than 200 yuan to buy a bag of rice, a chicken, a fish and several kilograms of pork. You must know that in the 5 years since he came to Pengcheng, he spent more than 200 yuan. Nearly a month's living expenses. Returning to the purchasing station, Zhao Xinyu immediately transferred $1,005 to his grandfather's bank card. Since his grandfather did not have a mobile phone, he had no way to contact him. He just expected that his grandfather would use his bank card. More than 2,000 pieces were harvested in half a day, and there were still a lot of vegetables in the space. Zhao Xinyu was happy. After more than an hour, the small table was filled with stewed fish, braised chicken nuggets, stir-fried meat with green peppers, stir-fried eggplant with meat and stir-fried beans with meat. A pot of rice. After doing it, Zhao Xinyu took Heifeng out of the space. After this period of time, Heifeng looked about the same size as a 3 or 4-month-old puppy. Unlike ordinary puppies, Heifeng seems to be able to understand Zhao Xinyu's words, and Zhao Xinyu, who has always been lonely, also regards Heifeng as a relative and partner, so even if he eats noodles, he will bring Heifeng out to share them together. After making a small basin for Heifeng, Zhao Xinyu made a bowl of rice. He first picked up a chopstick of green pepper and ate it. After one bite, Zhao Xinyu's eyes shrank, with a hint of horror in his eyes. They are all fried by ourselves, but the taste of meat stir-fried and salad oil stir-fried is too different. The crisp and tender green pepper aroma is not comparable to the green peppers sold outside, and the rich meat flavor seems to be attached to the green peppers. Above, another chopstick of beans was added, and the taste of the beans also surprised Zhao Xinyu. He knew in his heart that even if his grandfather came over now and ate the beans he had fried, he would be very impressed. After tasting the eggplant, Zhao Xinyu also confirmed that the dishes tasted so delicious not because of his skills, but because these vegetables were produced in a space that he didn't know how to get. Knowing this, Zhao Xinyu's heart became excited again. He could imagine the consequences if such vegetables were pushed out. Then Zhao Xinyu made a decision, that is, try not to sell vegetables near the purchasing station to avoid people recognizing him. In that case, the secret of his own space may be discovered. Because of Pengcheng's developed economy, there are many catering industries, including 5 five-star hotels, not to mention small and medium-sized restaurants. In a small restaurant called Nongjia Cuisine, a slightly fat middle-aged man was busy in the kitchen, and his eyes were full of doubts. Although the restaurant is not large, his stew has a unique flavor, so every time people come to eat, they will order his signature dish. Stew, but I don't know what happened today. So far, he has not sold a few portions of his stew, but his meat-fried green peppers and meat-fried beans have never been very popular. Dishes such as mushrooms, rapeseed, etc. are selling like hot cakes, and customers at several tables even ordered them several times. When he was free, he went outside to take a look. There was a table of regular customers. After seeing him come out, a diner said with a smile, "Boss Tan, have you changed the chef here? The fried eggplant, beans, green peppers, and rapeseed are really good. Come and make us a stir-fried eggplant with meat and fried green pepper with meat." When Boss Tan heard this, he was slightly startled. When he returned to the kitchen, he seemed to have thought of something. When he was cooking, he stir-fried more vegetables. After the dishes were served, he took a bite of green peppers. The next moment he was stunned. He immediately found the stored eggplants and green peppers and fried them again. After tasting it, Boss Tan's brows knitted together. After comparing, he also knew that it was not his cooking skills that had gotten better, but the ingredients. Those vegetables that were praised by diners were all bought by him at the lowest price when he came back. Vegetables, thinking of these, he couldn't help but get excited. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 6 Opening Up Sales. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. At the purchasing station, Zhao Xinyu rubbed his swollen belly and thought about the expressions of the vendors this morning. He knew that even if he got up early tomorrow, he would still be ostracized. His original idea was of no use at all. After tidying up the leftover food, Zhao Xinyu put Heifeng into the space and limped out of the purchasing station. He wanted to find a community with no vendors and a large floating population. Zhao Xinyu walked a lot in the afternoon. Anyway, when he came back in the evening, he had several blood blisters on the soles of his feet. Fortunately, his hard work was not in vain, and he finally found a place with few vendors. Community, but that community is not close to the acquisition station. after heating up the lunch leftovers and eating them with Heifan, Sherpei found a plastic bucket from the yard, filled it with soil from the yard, then planted a few vegetable seeds, and then thought about how to put it into the pot. Bring out the water from the puddle in space. However, when the idea first appeared, there was water flowing through the gaps between his fingers, which made Zhao Xinyu happy. Then he poured the water in the bucket thoroughly and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Zhao Xinyu entered the space with an old box and once again got 700 to 800 kilograms of vegetables. He didn't even bother to rest. He took a shabby coat and left the collection station on a tricycle. Although Pengcheng is located on the southern coast, the temperature at this time is still more than 10 degrees below zero. Even if you wear a coat, you still can't resist the biting cold. It took nearly 2 hours for Zhao Xinyu to arrive in front of the community called Tianyi Garden. At this moment, there was no pedestrian on the street. He parked the tricycle at a spot he had chosen yesterday and huddled behind the tricycle to escape the biting cold. Waiting for the dawn to come, although it was less than 2 hours before dawn, Zhao Xinyu felt that every minute was very long, and slowly Zhao Xinyu felt like he was sleeping but not sleeping. "Young man, you can't sleep, the weather will freeze your body." When Zhao Xinyu heard these words, his body trembled, and his sleepiness disappeared instantly. He opened his eyes and saw an old sanitation man in his 60s standing in front of him. Seeing Zhao Xinyu wake up, the old man felt a little relieved. He took an old baggage from the garbage truck and took out a water bottle from it. "Here you go, drink some hot water to go away the cold." Zhao Xinyu took it with a hint of gratitude. He felt the hot temperature coming from the water bottle and felt a little sour in his heart. "Thank you, uncle. I will only take a sip." "You drink it, I usually don't drink it." "Bring some hot water when you go out." "Even if you don't drink it, at least you can warm yourself up." The old man sighed and pushed the garbage truck away. "After drinking a few sips of hot water, the coldness in my body eased a little. I stood up and walked a few steps. I stretched my stiff body and looked up into the distance. Under the dim street lights, the old man was struggling to clean the streets. Zhao Xinyu sighed slightly and looked up to the east. A touch of orange appeared in the east. He turned to look at the newly built community and saw that someone had already come out of the community. After drinking some more water, he put the water bottle in the car, and Zhao Xinyu untied the tarpaulin. The faint aroma of vegetables filled the air instantly, and the two old people who had grown up stopped immediately. Walking over and looking at the vegetables on the car, the two old men shook their heads and walked away. In their minds, vegetables with this appearance must have used chemical fertilizers and pesticides, and there were quite a lot of them. Otherwise, there would not be any such appearance. Then more than 10 people came out of the community, but like the two old men, they looked at the vegetables for a few times and turned around and left without even asking the price. Zhao Xinyu understood something instantly. Thinking about what happened yesterday, when an aunt in her 50s came over, he took a cucumber, cut it in half, and handed half of it to the aunt. "Auntie, please try it. This vegetable does not use any pesticides or chemical fertilizers." While speaking, he picked up the other half and took a bite. As soon as Zhao Xinyu ate it, the unique fragrance of cucumbers filled the air instantly. The aunt was slightly startled. She often buys vegetables, but she has never smelled such a melon fragrance. With a hint of surprise, she took a small bite with her hand, and after one bite, the aunt's eyes lit up. "Master, how come your cucumbers are so delicious?" "My cucumbers don't use any chemical fertilizers or pesticides. You can try tomatoes again." Seeing the show, Zhao Xinyu took another tomato and handed it to the aunt. At this time, people came out of the community again. They saw a vegetable stall at the door, and they also gathered around. Zhao Xinyu was not stingy. He brought tomatoes and cucumbers for those who came to taste. Everyone just took a bite, and they all looked at Zhao Xinyu with a little surprise. Apparently they were all attracted by the taste of tomatoes and cucumbers. "Master, it's not genetically modified vegetables, right? How is it possible? Our country bans genetically modified vegetables. These are new varieties of vegetables. If you don't believe it, you can buy less and try it back. Weigh half a pound of beans for me and I'll try it when I go back. My house is right at the door." said the ant who came first. Zhao Xinyu reached out and grabbed a handful, and then took another tomato. No need to weigh it. You go back and try it. If you think it tastes good, buy some. If it doesn't taste good, I'll leave right away. Seeing Zhao Xinyu say this, the people around were stunned. Such vegetable vendors are rare in this era, and they also vaguely felt in their hearts that this vegetable vendor should not lie to others. In about 15 or 6 minutes, the ant came out with a plate and said, "It's so delicious. It's so delicious. Come and try it." There were no chopsticks, so people picked up some beans with their hands and took a bite. They all turned their heads and said, "Here, weigh 5 kilograms of beans for me." There were more than a dozen people watching. When Zhao Xinyu was weighing them, residents from the community kept coming out. After they heard that the vegetables tasted great, they immediately joined the queue to buy them. In half an hour, Zhao Xinyu didn't even have time to rest. All 700 to 800 kilograms of vegetables were sold, and there were still many people who didn't buy them. Those who bought it returned to the community happily, and those who didn't bought it regretted why they didn't come out earlier. "Master, are you coming tomorrow? Come on, come back tomorrow." A middle-aged man looked at the dilapidated tricycle and said, "Master, what age are you still using this kind of tricycle? How much can it pull? You should get an electric tricycle. One tricycle can pull at least 1056. Zhao Xinyu agreed, but he was very helpless in his heart. Of course he knew that electric tricycles could pull a lot and save effort, but an electric tricycle cost at least 3,000 to 4,000 yuan, and he had so much money to buy it. He packed the garbage on the ground into a tricycle, looked at the water bottles on the car, and looked up to the street, but he didn't see the old man. Zhao Xinyu shook his head, put the water bottle away, and rode back. When he returned to the buying station, he counted the money, and then he was stunned. The same car was sold for more than 2,000 yuan yesterday, and today the car was sold for more than 3,800 yuan. In the midst of ecstasy, he took the phone and wanted to transfer more money to his grandfather's account, but thinking of what the middle-aged man said, he put the money away and went out. Near noon, Zhao Xinyu rode an electric three-wheeler back to the purchasing station, but he only had 5 or 6 yuan left in his pocket. A tricycle took him back to before liberation. Calculating that there are still 4 days left before the spring festival, he is full of expectations. He knows that as long as there is space, his life will definitely turn around. Although there was an electric three-wheeler, Zhao Xinyu still went there early the next day. Firstly, he did not have a driving license, and secondly, he had to return the old man's water bottle and thank the old man by the way. Perhaps it was because he didn't put in much effort and was full of expectations. Although the weather was still cold, he didn't feel any chill. While waiting, he saw the old man coming with a cart and said, "Uncle, give me back your water bottle." Looking at Zhao Xinyu who was limping over, the old man smiled lightly, took the water bottle and asked with a smile, "I won't sleep today." Zhao Xinyu smiled and said, "I drank some hot water when I came here." Then Shipley unloaded a box of prepared vegetables from the car. "Uncle, these are vegetables you grew yourself. They are not valuable. You can take them back and save money on them. How can this be done?" "I don't want it." Just as the two were arguing, a voice came, "Master, can this dish be sold?" Zhao Xinyu put the box in front of the old man and said, "Take it away quickly, I'm going to sell vegetables." At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 7 New Discovery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Sell, why not? Zhao Xinyu returned to the tricycle and said with a smile. The 2 days of harvest gave him complete confidence. Although he did not dare to take off the mask, his words were more different than before. There is no calmness and confidence. I just saw it wasn't the tricycle from yesterday. I thought it wasn't you. Brother was right yesterday. This electric tricycle pulls a lot. You need something. It's still the same as yesterday. Zhao Xinyu glanced at the middle-aged man who was speaking, untied the newly bought tarpaulin, took out a tomato, and said, "Try it first." The middle-aged man laughed and said, "If you're willing to give it up, this one only costs 2 or 3 yuan. Brother, if I don't let you feel at ease, why would you buy it? Try it and you can feel at ease when you buy it back." The middle-aged man nodded, took a bite, and then his eyes lit up. "Quickly, give me 5 kilograms of each item." "No. I want 10 kilograms. What surprised Zhao Xinyu was that when he was weighing vegetables for middle-aged people, people kept coming out of the community and surrounding him. You must know that at this time yesterday, there were only sanitation workers on the street, although almost 2,000 kilograms of vegetables were hauled today. In less than 40 minutes, all the vegetables were sold. Zhao Xinyu, who was already a bit thin, was even more tired and sweating all over. When Zhao Xinyu was packing the box and preparing to go back, an ant who had not bought vegetables asked, "Little master, can you give us some this afternoon? My old man is sick and cannot live without people, and I can't wait for this time. It's too long, otherwise the old man will have no one to greet him." As soon as the first person spoke, someone else answered. They had only one intention, and that was that they wanted Zhao Xinyu to send them some vegetables in the afternoon. Zhao Xinyu's eyes flickered a few times. In the past 2 days, he could pick most of the vegetables in the space. However, he did not have a driving license. If he was caught, he would suffer a big loss. "Auntie, I just sold this car yesterday. To be honest, I don't have a driver's license yet. If you are really willing to wait, I can deliver it to you at 8 o'clock in the evening." Okay, I'll wait for you at 8 o'clock. The old lady said excitedly. "We're waiting for you too." As Sherpei rode his bicycle through the neighborhood where the stalls were held on the first day, he saw the small pickup truck again. The fat middle-aged man kept asking the vendors at the gate of the neighborhood, seeming to be looking for something. When Zhao Xinyu passed by him, he stood up and saw Zhao Xinyu's back. Then he was stunned. He waved and shouted, but Zhao Xinyu did not hear it. Boss Tan looked at the tricycle going away and smiled bitterly. He bought Zhao Xinyu's vegetables at a low price that day, and his sales doubled that day. After comparison, he knew why business was booming that day, mainly because of Zhao Xinyu's vegetables. So he came over early yesterday, but did not find Zhao Xinyu. Today he came over again, but all he saw was Zhao Xinyu's back. Zhao Xinyu, who returned to the purchasing station, counted today's harvest, which was more than 6,700 yuan. Looking at more than 6,000 yuan, Zhao Xinyu's excitement for New China was indescribable. Thinking that they would have to deliver food in the evening, Zhao Xinyu and He Feng took a simple bite and then got into the damp bed. Maybe it was because they got up too early. Although the bed was damp, they quickly fell asleep. At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Zhao Xinyu entered the space with the box. Before 8 o'clock, he arrived at the entrance of Tianyi Garden. What surprised him was that no less than 100 people had gathered there, and then a cart of vegetables was sold out in less than an hour, leaving more than a dozen people who had yet to buy anything. He looked apologetically at the dozen or so people who had not bought anything and said, "Guys, come here early tomorrow. Whatever you need, I'll leave it for you then." Seeing Zhao Xinyu's words, more than a dozen residents of the community who had been waiting in the cold wind for more than an hour had a smile on their faces. "You are finally here, let us help you." Zhao Xinyu kept it in mind and then rode away. In the next 3 days, Zhao Xinyu would appear at the gate of Tianyi Garden on time every day, and within a few days, the vegetables he planted had become popular in this newly built community. Not only this community, but people in nearby communities also heard the news, so Zhao Xinyu never went there for more than an hour each time. Many times, as long as Zhao Xinyu comes over, regular customers in the community will help, which makes Zhao Xinyu very touched. Many times, he is proud that he is a regular customer, and he will give them more vegetables. On the night of New Year's Eve, when Shipley was packing boxes and vegetable leaves scattered on the ground, a regular customer asked with a hint of regret. Zhao, I hear you are not from here. When will you go home? Come here after the first day of the new year." Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled, then shook his head with a wry smile. "Uncle Wang, I won't go back during the Chinese New Year. I will spend it by myself." When you need vegetables, call me and I will deliver them to you then. Zhao, will you come tomorrow morning? My friend just called me and he also wants to buy some of your vegetables. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, come on, it's still that time. When riding back, looking at the festive roads on both sides, Shipley felt sad. Ever since he left his grandfather and came to Pengcheng to go to school, in order to earn enough for his own living expenses and his brother's expenses, he has not gone back even once in the past 5 years, and every year when Wanjia's lights were bright, he would hide in the dormitory alone and cry, and all he ate was instant noodles. Thinking about the spring festival that was about to take place tomorrow, he gritted his teeth, went to the supermarket, and spent nearly 500 to purchase a lot of supplies. It was past 10 o'clock when he got home. He and Heifeng had a few mouthfuls and then got into bed. After all, they had to go to Tianyi Garden again early tomorrow morning. When Zhao Xinyu arrived at Tianyi Garden the next day, a lot of people had gathered there as usual, and within an hour, the vegetables were sold out again. On his way back, when he passed a Chinese medicine store, he stopped and thought for more than 10 minutes. He stopped the car and entered the Chinese medicine store. More than half an hour later, when he came out, he was holding 3 big bags in his hands. He had learned Chinese medicine from his grandfather when he was very young. After getting space, he knew that space had an effect on his injuries. At that time, he thought about it. Buy some important things to treat yourself according to the formula in memory, but at that time, he didn't have much money in his hand at all, so the matter was delayed. Now that he had money in his hand, he thought of treating himself. Even if he couldn't cure it, it would be enough to alleviate it a little bit. When he got home, he posted the Spring Festival couplets, and then began to clean the room, washing the sheets and quilts that had not been washed for a long time. After finishing his work, he started to prepare lunch. After working for a long time, the table was full. He had done a lot for Heifeng. Heifeng lay on the ground and devoured the food, but Zhao Xinyu was staring at the table of dishes. Delicious and delicious, he has been out for more than 5 years, and he is not afraid of hardship or grievance. What he fears most is the new year and the holidays. This year was originally the year when he graduated and went to work, but because of the accident, he had a home and could not return. Zhao Xinyu was melancholy and in a daze, and Heifeng had already finished a bowl of dishes. Perhaps the little guy felt Zhao Xinyu's heart, and the little guy rubbed his little head on Zhao Xinyu's legs. Sensing Heifeng's intention, Zhao Xinyu took a deep breath and picked up the chopsticks, but he only took a few bites before putting the chopsticks down. The next moment he put down his chopsticks, his eyes lit up and he saw green in the plastic bucket in a corner of the room. It's successful. Space water can also have an effect on ordinary soil. Zhao Xinyu became excited. The tomatoes and cucumbers planted a few days ago have grown, and each one is as tall as a village. Although the growth rate is not as fast as the space, it is much faster than the growth rate of ordinary planting. You must know that if it is ordinary planting, it is still difficult to say whether it can germinate in a few days, let alone grow to more than an inch tall. Looking at the tomatoes and cucumbers in the plastic bucket, Zhao Xinyu turned his head and looked at the yard full of garbage. He suddenly became excited. The big yard left by the old man belonged to the city across a smelly ditch. If I can make my yard full of vegetables, and I don't need to get up at midnight every day and go out to sell vegetables in the middle of the night. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 8 Prepare for a Rainy Day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. After being excited, Zhao Xinyu slowly calmed down. Having worked hard in Pengcheng for 5 years, he knew that many things were not as easy as he imagined. This courtyard was left to Su Ning by Grandpa Su, but he is not a villager in Xihanling. Now there is no development here and it will not attract people's attention. But if he develops this big courtyard, it will definitely make people jealous. In that case, even with Su Ning's will, it is really difficult to say whether he can get the ownership of the yard. Wanting to understand this, Shipi Pui found the will left by Su Ning and the property ownership certificate of the yard, and then found his own file bag. He limped out of the purchasing station, went out and spent 300 yuan to buy 2 cigarettes and 2 bottles of wine and went to the old village chief Han Tianliang. He is also familiar with Zhao Xinyu and the old village chief Han Tianliang. He also knows that Zhao Xinyu, who has no blood relationship with Su Ning, has often taken care of Su Ning in the past 5 years. It is precisely because of this that Su Ning, who has no relatives, is willing to leave the yard to Zhao Xinyu. Hearing that Zhao Xinyu wanted to transfer Su Ning's yard to his own name, Han Tianliang's eyes flickered a few times. Xinyu, I understand what you mean, but I have to explain to you if you have any objections. Su Ning has always been the 5th person in the village. As a policy holder, according to regulations, after his death, the yard will be returned to the village. However, Su Ning left a will, and the yard is also Su Ning's ancestral property. If you really want to transfer the property to your name, you must transfer your household registration to the village. You are a college student. If your household registration is in the village, it will have a great impact on your future work. When Zhao Xinyu heard this, he felt happy and said, Grandpa Han, if you see me like this, which unit will want me? Han Tianliang smiled bitterly and said, Xinyu, I know you are a good boy. Now there is a policy from above. As long as you agree, your household registration will be settled in the village immediately, and the yard owned by Old Man Su can also be transferred to your name. If you want to farm, the village can allocate land to you. Grandpa Han, what do you need? The household registration certificate in your portfolio is enough. Zhao Xinyu took out the will, property rights certificate and his household registration certificate and handed them to Han Tianliang. Grandpa Han, I'm sorry to trouble you. Taking these things and looking at the cigarettes and wine that Zhao Xinyu brought on the ground, Han Tianliang sighed slightly. Xinyu, I know your character well, and you are not rich either. Take all these things back and refund them later. You wait a minute, I'll get you some food, go back and eat it yourself. As for the property rights of the yard, I'll get it for you after it's settled in a few days. Grandpa Han, this doesn't cost much. Just think of it as a New Year's gift from me. I bought too little food and I can't eat much by myself, so I won't take it. However, when Zhao Xinyu walked to the door, Han Tianliang's son Han Jun still carried a large bag of prepared meatballs and braised pork and forced it to Zhao Xinyu. With a trace of gratitude, Zhao Xinyu left Han Tianliang's house. When he returned, he saw all the old houses that were at least several decades old, and many of the old houses had become dilapidated. Looking at the prosperous Pengcheng neighborhood in the distance, Zhao Xinyu was filled with emotion. They were only a few miles apart, but life was indeed a world of ice and fire. This was almost exactly the same as when he was in college. With emotion, Zhao Xinyu returned to the purchasing station, took out the Chinese medicine he bought, mixed and brewed it himself. Smelling the strong aroma of the medicine, he had a wry smile on his face. Others were busy celebrating the new year and having reunions, but he was brewing the Chinese medicine. In nearly 2 hours, a large pot of medicinal herbs turned into a dark viscous substance. Zhao Xinyu picked out the remaining medicinal herbs, found a small bowl for the remaining ointment, and washed the medicinal pot again. After cleaning, I started to brew the decoction for internal use. After the decoction is cooked, take it orally, take the small bowl over, take off your pants, and apply the ointment on the injured left leg. After a moment, Zhao Xinyu's face showed a hint of excitement. He could feel a burning pain where the ointment was applied, and the injured area also felt sore. Being well versed in medical science, he knew that the ointment had worked. With a hint of excitement, he smeared the remaining ointment on his face, and applied more ointment to the severely damaged half of his face. After doing all this, it was already dark, and he was smeared with ointment. There was no need to deliver food at night. He and Hei Feng were the only two here, and he didn't cook. When I was lying on the bed, the injured area not only felt sore and numb, but also had a cool feeling. This feeling was like cupping. It really worked. Zhao Xinyu was excited. Zhao Xinyu was awakened by the sound of firecrackers in his sleep. When he sat up, he saw fireworks blooming in the sky outside through the window. Seeing this scene, he immediately thought of his grandfather who was thousands of miles away. He felt sad. turned off the lights, locked the door, and then entered the space of Central Europe. The space is still gray, but it is much brighter than before. At this moment, the space is almost 2 acres in size, the vegetables in the space are growing well, and the tomato seedlings are nearly 2 meters high. There are almost no green leaves on the entire seedlings. All that can be seen are red tomatoes, and the bamboo used to build the shelves is bent. The cucumbers, beans, and tomatoes that have been rebuilt twice have fewer leaves and more fruits. The eggplants and green peppers have too many fruits hanging, so they cannot be erected with bamboos. Looking at the fruits on the vegetables, Zhao Xinyu felt a little better. Thinking that the herbs could play a role, he returned to the room with a thought and brought all the herbs he bought into the space. What he wanted to do was use space water to treat them. The herbs are soaked, that way the effect will be better. While soaking the herbs, Zhao Xinyu casually threw some useless herb branches and seeds into the space. He couldn't hear the sound of firecrackers and couldn't arouse his homesickness. Zhao Xinyu simply found a place to lie down and watched the black wind coming in and out of the vegetable field. As he watched, Zhao Xinyu fell into a dreamland. In his dream, he reunited with his grandfather and younger brother's family. Although they ate simply, they were still enjoying themselves. When he woke up, he thought of the soaked herbs. He immediately went to the puddle. When he reached the place where the herbs were soaked, he was slightly startled. He saw touches of green around the bucket where the herbs were soaked. He remembered that there was no green color when soaking the herbs. His heart was shocked. Could it be? When he was surprised, he saw that the area of the space had changed again, from 2 acres to about 3 acres, and the white rock in the middle of the pool was only 5 or 6 meters above the ground. The white rock stands like a rockery in the center of the pool, with traces of water constantly falling off the rocks and flowing into the pool. Looking at the changed space, Zhao Xinyu's eyes fell on the green spots around the bucket, and he realized in his heart that the change in space was due to the medicinal herbs. I grow more than half an acre of vegetables, and the space has only expanded from more than 300 square meters to about 2 acres. Now, just some scattered herb residues have increased the area of the space by more than an acre. This does not mean that the role of herbs is more effective than vegetables. After thinking about this, Zhao Xinyu's heart suddenly became excited. He is a graduate of the University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Of course he knows the price of medicinal herbs. If there are medicinal herbs in his own space, with the function of space, the most common medicinal herbs can grow to precious medicinal herbs of many years. Developed, Zhao Xinyu exclaimed in his heart. He originally thought that only vegetables could allow him to earn living expenses and improve his life. Now it seems that not only vegetables, but other plants can also survive and grow in the space. Fruit, he suddenly thought that on the way to find Han Tianyang in the afternoon, in front of a farmer's door there were many almost dry grape branches pulled from nowhere. Thinking of this, Zhao Xinyu suddenly became energetic. He immediately left the space, put on his clothes and left the acquisition station. Beautiful fireworks kept blooming in the sky, but Zhao Xinyu didn't look at them at all. What he was thinking about was that since space can make dry herbs survive, will it also allow dry grapes to survive? If it can survive, I really need to replan my future plans. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 9 Thoughts on Growing Vegetables. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. While the whole country was celebrating, Zhao Xinyu was in space, cutting dry grape branches that he had stolen back. He also got inspiration from medicinal herbs. He himself did not know whether the dry grape branches could be rejuvenated. He still didn't go out that night. He knew that even if he went out, it would only increase his sadness. Only in this space that only belonged to him could he be confident as he had never been before. When he woke up from his sleep, he looked at the space and saw that there was no change in the space. This made him feel a little disappointed. He quickly went to the place where the grapes were cut and dug up a piece of the grapes. The next moment, there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. Although the grapes were still dry, there were fine teeth like hairs at the roots. After burying the dug grape branch again, Zhao Xinyu let out a sigh of relief. He glanced at Heifeng playing in the vegetable field and shouted loudly. The little guy jumped to his side, rubbed his little head on his legs a few times, and barked at him a few times. Let's go out for a bite to eat. When he returned to the room, Zhao Xinyu found that it was already 9 o'clock on the morning of the first day of the new year. He took out the soaked herbs in the space and boiled ointments and potions. When he took off his pants, he was slightly startled. He saw that the scars on his legs seemed to have faded a little. He then picked up his phone and saw his scarred face through the camera. This was the second time Zhao Xinyu looked at his face after being discharged from the hospital. He saw that the scars on his face had faded a lot, and the dark left side of his face had improved significantly. The injury improved, which made Zhao Xinyu feel good. He quickly applied the ointment and took the medicine. He heated up the dishes that were almost untouched at noon yesterday. After eating and resting for more than an hour, when there was no reaction at the injured area, he washed off the ointment, walked out of the yard, and began to tidy up the yard that had been abandoned for who knows how many years. This is a waste collection station, but because Su Ning has limited mobility, many people are unwilling to sell their waste here. So there are not many useful waste in the yard, but more useless. Garbage. There was so much garbage that Zhao Xinyu only cleaned one corner in one afternoon, but the garbage was piled up in several piles, and each pile was like a hill. In the following days, Zhao Xinyu was cleaning up the yard every day. The villagers passing by were surprised, but they didn't know what Zhao Xinyu was going to do. On this day, Zhao Xinyu, who was cleaning up the yard, heard someone calling him from behind. He turned around and saw Han Tianyang looking at him with a hint of doubt. In his hand is a brown paper bag. Grandpa Han, you are here. Xinyu, the yard has been transferred to your name. I have also bought you more than 10 acres of land. The land is not very good, but as long as you plant it every year, the state will provide appropriate subsidies. Earth. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled, then wiped his hands and found the paper bag. Grandpa Han, where is the land? Han Tianyang pointed to the east side of the compound. That's not it. It's just east of Luohe River. There are a total of 18 acres there, but 6 or 7 acres are made of sand and gravel. They don't count. Only 10 acres are counted for you. Zhao Xinyu glanced at the farmland that had been deserted for who knows how many years. His heart moved. Luohe. He also heard Su Ning say that Luohe used to be a suitable stream for people in Xihanling to survive. However, due to various reasons, the reason is that the stream was cut off. As the city developed and built roads, the upstream and downstream areas were filled in. Now there is only a large pit with a large area left. No one is managing it. Over time, the large puddle has turned into a smelly puddle, and every year when the weather gets hot, there are so many mosquitoes in the stinking puddles, and mosquitoes are everywhere in the courtyard. It is precisely because of this that no one cares about the courtyard despite its large area. As for the piece of land that Han Tianyang mentioned, it is on the edge of the Luohe River. However, the land was later abandoned and the village and the construction company dug soil there. Now the land is like an isolated island standing in the middle of the stinking puddle, and people want to go up and farm. It's really not easy. Seeing Zhao Xinyu looking at the barren farmland in a daze, Han Tianyang showed a trace of embarrassment on his face. Xinyu, your legs and feet are inconvenient, and it is not suitable for you to be given too far away. Although this land is a bit difficult to get up to, don't worry. I will give you all the subsidies, and in a few days I will find someone to spray some pesticides. Zhao Xinyu knew that Han Tianyang would have wrong meaning, but he did not explain. Thanks to Grandpa Han, then Luohe still belongs to the village now. The Luohe River has now become a stinking ditch. Now most of the villagers are working in the city. If I were 20 years younger, I would really clean up this stinky ditch and raise fish. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. Grandpa Han, it doesn't mean that the source of Luo Shui has been buried. What do they know? There is a spring just under the yard. The amount of water is not small. It's just that people are too lazy and no one is willing to dig it. Xiao Lei, how about I paint this area for you? One day, if the village development, you can get a little more compensation. How can this be done? People in the village will gossip. That's true. Let's do this. I will contract Luaha River to you when I go back. You only need to get some insecticide powder into it every year. As long as there are fewer mosquitoes, no one in the village will say anything. At this moment, Zhao Xinyu also understood why Han Tianyang gave him the farmland that was impossible to access. It turned out that he wanted to provide more subsidies for himself. Xinyu, what are you going to do? Old Shuto has difficulty moving. As long as you continue to run this buying station, you will definitely earn 50,000 to 60,000 yuan a year. Grandpa Han, you see the city is developing very fast now, and there are 2 purchasing stations in front of it. I plan to tidy up the courtyard and plant some vegetables in a while. Growing vegetables is a good thing, but don't forget that our village is short of water. How much will it cost if we water the vegetables? Zhao Xinyu smiled and said, you said there is a spring outside the hospital. You guys, okay, I don't understand you young people. Since you want to grow vegetables, then give it a try. I'll ask Han Jun and Han Li to come over tomorrow. Anyway, they won't go to work these days. Let them help. You clean up the yard. Early the next morning, 2 brothers, Han Jun and Han Li, came over. Not only did they come, they also brought 4 people and a tractor. Xinyu, they are all from our village. I heard that you want to grow vegetables. Come and have a look. No wages are needed, but the wine is necessary. Han Jun was in his 20s, and he only knew Zhao Xinyu, but Han Junli often comes here and is very familiar with Zhao Xinyu. Zhao Xinyu was overjoyed and nodded quickly, okay, thank you very much. Just tell me what you want to eat and I will prepare it for you right now. Han Li laughed and said, just go out and buy some cooked meat. We don't need you here, just us. In one morning, 7 or 8 piles of garbage that Zhao Xinyu cleaned up were transported out. Zhao Xinyu didn't know where exactly it was taken. Han Li, call everyone to eat. When Han Li and the other 6 entered a room specially cleared by Zhao Xinyu, the 6 of them were stunned at the same time, and each of them swallowed their saliva. They saw a newly bought dining table filled with dishes that were delicious, delicious, and delicious. Han Li and the others were all young people, and they often gathered with friends. They dared to say that such dishes could not be made in ordinary small restaurants. Xinyu, we are all our own people. Just buy some cooked meat. Why waste money? If the old man knows about this, we will not be scolded. Zhao Xinyu chuckled and said, Han Li, you don't know me yet. I don't have that much spare money. I made all this myself. You sit down first and taste it to see if it tastes good to you. I'll get you some wine. What? Han Li stretched out his hand to stop Zhao Xinyu, who was about to go out to get some wine. What's wrong, don't you drink? I'm asking you, you cooked all these dishes. Yes. You're so secretive, we'll be in great luck from now on. Han Li laughed loudly and asked Han Jun and the others to sit down. After taking a bite, the 6 people were stunned at the same time, with shock in their eyes. They really couldn't believe that there could be such delicious dishes in this world. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 10 Preparation Before Starting a Business. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me, they are all young people. Although they have never been to any high-end restaurants, they often visit small restaurants. This is now the most ordinary eggplant. After 1 bite, they don't want to stop at all. Unable to bear it, the 6 people raised their chopsticks almost at the same time and took a few more bites. Han Li swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and blocked the others' chopsticks. It's like the reincarnation of a starving ghost. Stop eating. Xinyu hasn't eaten yet. Han Li, you know Xinyu best, why didn't you tell me before? His brother Han Jun glared at Han Li. Han Li smiled bitterly and said, Brother, I am familiar with Xinyu, but he has never cooked. He only eats steamed buns and pickles. Where can I eat his cooking? As he finished speaking, the door opened and Zhao Xinyu came in with wine. The wine is not good, so let's just make do with it. Zhao Xinyu poured wine for Han Li and the other 6, pointed at the dishes on the table, and asked with a smile, why don't they taste good? Xinyu, why do you have to pick up garbage when you have such good cooking skills? Your cooking skills are always popular in small restaurants and star-rated restaurants. Han Li patted Zhao Xinyu on the shoulder. Laughed and cursed. Zhao Xinyu smiled bitterly and said, Han Li, who dares to ask for me if I'm like this? It's just you guys. It would be weird if it were anyone else. The 6 people in Han Jun sighed. Except for Han Li, who knew what Zhao Xinyu was like before, the 5 of them really didn't know. However, they knew that Zhao Xinyu looked like this. Not to mention that he was applying for a job as a chef, he might have been hired before he even entered the door. Turned away. Xinyu, why don't you drink? I can't get used to drinking this wine. When I have time, I will go back to my hometown and bring you some medicinal wine brewed by my grandfather. The wine tastes much better than this wine. But after saying this, Zhao Xinyu's expression suddenly dimmed, and he obviously thought about his current appearance again, and what would his grandfather think if he went back like this. The 7 people chatted, a glass of wine was not finished, the chicken, duck and fish were almost untouched, and the dishes made from the vegetables grown in the available space were all eaten. Seeing that the plate was empty, Zhao Xinyu stood up and said, I'll fry a few more for you. Han Li laughed and said, we don't need the meat. Just make more of the dishes we just had. After the meal, the cooked chicken, duck, and fish were still almost untouched. Zhao Xinyu cooked it 3 more times, but in the end there was no dish left except chicken, duck, and fish. Xinyu, you're very good at cooking. Why don't we open a restaurant together? Han Li said with a smile. His suggestion immediately received responses from Han Jun and others. It would be a waste of cooking skills if we don't open a restaurant. That's it. After cleaning up the yard, I will go find the store owner. Let's open a restaurant together. Xinyu will own half of the shares, and the 6 of us will take half. What do you think? Zhao Xinyu quickly waved his hand. Han Li, look at me like this. If diners see me, the restaurant will be destroyed immediately. I plan to grow vegetables this year and won't think about anything else. Xinyu, my father also told me what you think. There are vegetable growers everywhere now. How much can you earn from growing vegetables in a year? If you can make money by growing vegetables, not all the people in our village will go to the city to work. As soon as Han Li said these words, everyone in the room fell silent. Shihan Ridge is not a small place, but up to now, only the elderly and women can stay in the village to work in agriculture, and there are really not many young people. Han Li, you are often outside, do you know any hook machine masters? Han Li was stunned. Xinyu, what are you planning to do? It's not to build a new house, right? I'm telling you, even though your place is next to the city, no one wants to come here. If you have money, you might as well save it. I will buy a building when I come down. It's not about building a house. The village contracted the farmland in Luaha River to me. I made an agreement with Grandpa Han. I also plan to contract the smelly ditch. However, the smelly ditch must be renovated. If you recognize the person, how much did it cost? You asked. Xinyu, you are crazy. If Luaha can make money, it will be your turn. Now Luaha is digging out the garbage and silt. No one is looking at it for only 40 to 50,000 yuan. Besides, what can be done after digging it out? What, there's not even water now, it's of no use at all. Han Li, since Xinyu asked you to ask, you should ask. Let's go. We've drank the wine and eaten the food. It's time for us to get to work. Don't worry, it's still more than a month before we start planting vegetables. In 5 days, all the garbage and waste products in the yard were disposed of, and Han Li even found people from the village to help clean up the yard, including vegetable beds and water channels. Of course, Han Jun and the other 6 are voluntarily helping, but leveling the land, digging ditches, and gathering vegetable beds all cost money. It cost Zhao Xinyu more than 1,400 yuan to clean up a yard. During these 5 days, Han Li and Han Jun stayed at Zhao Xinyu's place except for sleeping. Although the time was short, the 7 people of similar age became completely familiar with each other. Xinyu, we agreed, if we can't grow vegetables this year, how can we build a restaurant next year? On this day, several people were sitting together drinking. Han Li stared at Zhao Xinyu and said, if we talk about the past, Zhao Xinyu didn't have any confidence, but it is different now. There is space, and in the past few days, the tomatoes and cucumbers planted in the clinker barrel have grown to more than a foot tall, and the growth is gratifying. Zhao Xinyu, you know that as long as you use more space water for watering, the vegetables you grow will definitely become popular. Han Li, as you said, if I make money growing vegetables, how about you come back and help me? Han Jun and the others laughed. They were all natives of the village in Zhihanling. They all knew what the villagers had done over the years. If growing vegetables could really make money, they would not need to go out to work at all. Okay, when you make a fortune growing vegetables, we will all come back to help you. Woof woof, Han Jun and the others laughed, but Heifeng on the ground was not happy. Heifeng, who was almost half a big dog, barked at Han Jun and the others. Looking at Heifeng, who was almost half a meter tall, Han Jun looked at Zhao Xinyu. Xinyu, don't say anything, Heifeng is really too smart. As soon as we say something bad about you, he will definitely scream, Heifeng, where did you buy the wind? Zhao Xinyu touched Heifeng, and Heifeng rubbed Zhao Xinyu's calf obediently, but when he looked at Han Jun and the others, there was a hint of human dissatisfaction in their eyes. Heifeng, I picked it up on the street. You guys are really lucky. That guy with no eyes is really blind when he throws away a well-bred dog like Black Wind. Heifeng, come here, Han Li scolded and then looked at Heifeng. But Heifeng turned his little head and didn't even look at him, which made Han Jun and the others laugh even more. After dinner in the evening, Han Jun and the others left together. Zhao Xinyu, who was cleaning up, received a call from a regular customer of Tianyi Garden. He only had one sentence, saying that people in Tianyi Garden miss his vegetables. From that day on, Zhao Xinyu went to Tianyi Garden every morning, and spent the rest of the time with Han Jun and the others. After the Lantern Festival, Han Jun and Han Li all left Zhihanling to go out to work, and the compound suddenly became deserted. When Zhao Xinyu was free, he began to wonder whether he should dig out the spring that Han Tianliang had mentioned outside the yard that had been buried for decades. After thinking for a long time, Zhao Xinyu didn't find anyone to dig. During this period, Han Tianliang was helping him get the contract for Luo Shui. He was worried that digging would arouse the jealousy of other villagers. If someone interfered with it, he would be in trouble. The gain outweighs the loss. On this day, Zhao Xinyu returned from delivering vegetables to Tianyi Garden again. He went to the seed company. When he returned to the compound, he carried several large bags of seeds back to his room. Various vegetables in the space are growing well. The seedlings of tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, beans, green peppers, etc. are even bigger. Take tomatoes, each seedling is more than 2 meters tall. Zhao Xinyu estimates that each tomato seedling has at least 40 or 50 pounds. As for more cucumbers, even one green pepper plant weighs at least 10 or 20 kilograms of green peppers. The grapes cut during the Chinese New Year already have vines more than 1 meter long, and the grape branches stolen 2 days ago are also green and rooted. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises.